Welcome to YQ Academy Core Java Interview Questions and Answers. 1. Explain naming conventions for packages. 1. Lowercase names. Package names should be in lowercase letters. 2. Multiple words. If a package name consists of multiple words, they should be separated by a dot, without any underscores or spaces. For example, example, miproject, org, OpenAI, chatbot. 3. Meaningful and descriptive. Package names should be meaningful and descriptive, reflecting the purpose or content of the classes within the package. Use names that are related to the functionality or domain of the classes in the package. For example, example, utilities, org, OpenAI, machinelioning. 4. Reverse domain name. To avoid naming conflicts and ensure uniqueness, it is common to use a reverse domain name as the prefix for your package names. This helps differentiate your packages from packages created by other organizations or developers. For example, example, miproject, org, OpenAI, chatbot. 5. Avoid abbreviations. It is generally recommended to avoid using abbreviations in package names to ensure clarity and readability. Use descriptive names instead of abbreviations whenever possible. 6. Avoid confusing names. Avoid using package names that are similar to or may be confused with standard Java classes or commonly used libraries/packages. This helps prevent naming clashes and confusion in the codebase. 2. What is classpath? The classpath is an environment variable or a command line option in Java that specifies the locations where the Java Virtual Machine JVM should look for classes and resources at runtime. It is a set of directories or jar files that the JVM searches when trying to load a class or resource referenced in the code. The class path determines where the JVM should find the bytecode class files of the classes that are required by the program. It is crucial for the JVM to locate and load the necessary classes and resources to execute a Java application successfully. The class path can include directories, jar files, or zip files. When the JVM encounters a class or resource reference, it searches for it in the directories and jar files specified in the class path, in the order they are listed. Once the JVM finds the required class or resource, it loads it into memory for execution. The class path can be set using the following methods. 1. Command line option. You can specify the class path using the CP or class path option followed by a list of directories and jar files. For example, Java CP DIICTOY1, DIICTOY2, milib, jomyap. 2. Environment variable. You can set the class path as an environment variable named classpath. The value of the variable should contain the directories and jar files separated by a colon or semicolon on Windows. 3. Manifest file. For executable jar files, you can specify the class path in the manifest file metainf/manifest. The manifest file contains metadata about the jar file, including the class path. 3. What is jar? A jar Java archive is a file format used to package Java classes, resources, and metadata into a single file. It is a compressed file format similar to zip, but specifically designed for Java applications. Jar files are commonly used for packaging and distributing Java libraries, frameworks, and applications. A jar file can contain one or more compiled Java classes, along with associated resources such as images, configuration files, and properties files. It can also include a manifest file metainf/manifestinf that provides metadata about the contents of the jar file, such as the main class to execute, class path dependencies, and other attributes. Jar files provide several benefits in Java development. 1. Packaging. Jar files allow you to package multiple Java classes and resources into a single file, making it easier to distribute and deploy Java applications. 2. Compression. Jar files use compression algorithms to reduce the file size, which is beneficial for transferring and storing the files efficiently. 3. Dependency management. Jar files are commonly used for managing dependencies in Java projects. They allow you to bundle required libraries and dependencies along with your application, ensuring that all the necessary classes and resources are available at runtime. 4. Class path management. Jar files can be added to the class path, allowing the JVM to locate and load the required classes from the jar file. 4. What is the scope of instance variables? The scope of instance variables in Java is determined by the lifetime of the object instance to which they belong. An instance variable is declared within a class but outside of any method, constructor, or block. The scope of an instance variable extends throughout the entire class and is accessible by all methods, constructors, and blocks within the class. Each instance of the class object has its own copy of the instance variables, and they retain their values as long as the object exists in memory. 5. Explain the scope of static variables. The scope of static variables in Java is determined by the class itself rather than any specific instance of the class. Static variables, also known as class variables, are declared with the static keyword and are shared among all instances of the class. The scope of a static variable extends throughout the entire class, and it can be accessed and modified by any method, constructor, or block within the class, including other static methods, constructors, and even instance methods. It is important to note that static variables are not tied to any particular instance of the class, but rather belong to the class itself. Additionally, static variables are accessible from other classes if the access modifier allows for it public or protected, and if the class is imported properly. It's worth mentioning that static variables are initialized only once when the class is loaded into memory, and their values are retained throughout the entire execution of the program. They are not tied to any particular instance and are shared among all instances of the class. 6. Explain the scope of local variables. The scope of local variables in Java is limited to the block or method in which they are declared. Local variables are variables that are defined within a method, constructor, or block, and they are only accessible within the scope in which they are declared. Local variables are declared and initialized within a specific block of code, such as a method or a loop. Local variables are only accessible within the block or method in which they are declared. They cannot be accessed outside of that scope. Local variables have a limited lifetime. They are created when the block in which they are declared is entered, and they cease to exist once the block is exited. Local variables are typically used for temporary storage of data within a specific method or block. This is the end of our Java interview questions. We hope you enjoyed learning with YQ Academy. Until next time, goodbye.